Okay, we have a Digimon video, hence why the Digimon are back. And why I pulled out my Rosemon shirt for Mimi. So, I mentioned before in Mimi video, and I think in maybe Sora and Kari's videos, that I did want to do a video where I talked about the way that they two kind of compare and contrast the female version of the human body in regards to the way that they have Mimi and Sora and Kari depicted in Digimon, and Mako as well, compared to how they have some of their other Digimon, compared like the female Digimon that we see, like Angelmon and Rosemon and Lilymon, and as you know, some of those ones that go along with Digimon Adventures. So this video is going to be me just kind of talking about like the way that they do pull off the slight objectification of Digimon via the women's body via female Digimon, but how they kind of hold back on doing that a little bit with like Kari and Mimi and Sora and Mako. So I'll just start with the Digidestined themselves. Actually, Mimi is the main reason that I'm kind of doing this video. Well, Mimi, and then kind of the way that they have some of the female Digimon portrayed for Digimon Adventures. I might do another one later where I talk about in Tamers, but there's not as many female Tamers in Digidestined and Tamers. And then again, I'll do it with Digimon Frontier when I get to that one. But what we have, of course, with Mimi is she is, to a degree, a rather-ish vain character. In the beginning of the series, we, of course, see her be very concerned about, her complexion and her hair and her outfit and all of this other stuff. And, she takes a lot of pride in the way that she looks. And, of course, during the time frame that the Digidestined are separated when they're in the digital world, when Tai goes back and the others get separated, Mimi, of course, ends up at Shogun Geckomon's castle, where she becomes Princess Mimi to the Tamamon, to the Otamamon, and to the Geckomon. And she becomes this very vain, spoiled type setup. And then, of course, via Tai and Joe and then Sora, she's able to kind of, make her way out of that, and she becomes, her regular self again, her true self, her sincere self, and she apologizes and everything. There are a few times throughout the course of that season where we do get it that, like, oh, Mimi's taking a bath, or Sora's taking a bath, or whatever the case may be, but we don't actually see anything, and it is a little bit more used for, like, comedic effect. And, like, they have, like, Tai and Izzy run back out of the room. Maybe that was where Izzy's crush he has on Mimi started. I don't know when that started. But, we see that, and then in Digimon Adventures 2.0, when we see Mimi, of course, the first time we see her, she's, decked out her hair, and it's pink, and has stars in it, and she's got, like, a very American-type outfit, and, with the red, white, and blue, and the stars, and she's got, like, a mini skirt on, and her shirt kind of shows her midriff a little bit. And in context of the show, I think, I don't remember how old she's exactly supposed to be at that point in time, but she's, like, probably in, like, the American equivalent of, middle school going into high school range. And, so we get that. She's in that equivalency of that. And, of course, in America, she has a lot more kind of freedom in regards to the way that she's allowed to dress at school, because, like, in Japan, I mean, like, yeah, the younger kids in, like, elementary school, Davis and Kari and, Ken goes to, like, a private school, but, like, the others go to a public school, and they kind of get to choose how they dress at school. And whereas we see Sora and Tai and Matt and, and Izzy, like, they all have, like, school uniforms that they wear. Because I think it's in, like, middle school and high school, there are uniforms that the students have to wear. I don't quite know about elementary school in Japan. That's not something I'm extremely familiar with. But, Mimi's much more decked out that way in the way that she looks, and she still cares about the way that she looks, but she's also much more in touch with her, it's like, yeah, I care about the way that I look, but I also, care quite a lot about my friends, because we see her, she doesn't like to get dirty, which I don't blame her for. I mean, like, dirt is one thing, but she gets, like, covered in sludge a couple of times throughout the course of the second season and the first season. And so, so you can't blame her for being grossed out like that. And then one of the other times that we see her, of course, is just after Ken has been defeated as being the Digimon Emperor, and when they're starting to deal with Arukenimon, Mimi, of course, has like a new outfit set up. She's got like her hair is different. It's not pink anymore. It's all like puffy and like afro-ish. Like she got a perm, which Mimi getting a perm for the heck of it doesn't surprise me in the slightest. But she looks that way in one of the episodes, and then the next time that we see her in like the Christmas episodes, she's changed her look again. She's just got like her normal hair color back, and she's it's her brownish, maybe slightly pink, but still just brownish hair color that's straight, and it's her regular hair color. So I'm assuming maybe after the perm, she was like, no, I don't want a perm anymore, and just like straightened it out or whatever. Did whatever the opposite of doing with a perm is, where you like get rid of the perm. I don't know. Because like enough time wouldn't have passed for her hair to be cut and then her to grow, hair that's that long again. But she does take a fair amount of pride in her image and the way that she looks, and then, and the way that to a degree people perceive her. And we see this in, in the Digimon Adventures Try, where she's back to her pink hair, but she's in the school uniform because she's now gonna move back to Japan and be in the same high school as Sora and Tai and Izzy and Matt is where she's gonna be, and she's back there, and she's got like her hair pink again and the school uniform. And then of course the main thing that this gets brought up in is of course during the festival where they're going to do the cultural festival, and Mimi suggests that they do this a cafe that's based around daters, which is kind of, I'm assuming, possibly a reference to like Hooters in America, but they don't have the girls dressed as skimpy. They still, it's not as skimpy, and this is being recorded just during the time frame when like a bunch of Hooters waitresses are like not necessarily going on strike, but they're like rebelling against the company because of like the outfits that they've been they have to wear. And yeah, no, that's just sad. But when Mimi of course has to deal with the fact that the other girls in the class think that she's just being kind of mean or spoiled because she isn't, she wants to have them all dress up in these kind of outfits, and her and Mako design them, and they're not badly designed. They're not really skimpy. It's just the other girls aren't comfortable in wearing those. They also didn't necessarily like that Mimi's basically this girl that has been there for like a couple of days and is like kind of taking over to a degree, but that's just kind of Mimi's personality. She does have that takeover type of personality, and we see that. And her and Mako end up wearing the outfits. Mako helps make them. Sora kind of helps with that too. And they get the two cheerleading outfits made up for Mako and Mimi to wear, and of course they wear them. And Mako is very shy about wearing it, but she's doing it because she wants to help make Mimi feel better. And Mimi is quite comfortable with it because Mimi is very comfortable in her own skin. And of course they do like the cheerleading, and Izzy sees that and he comes down and sees them at the cafe, which is funny. We don't really get too much more of like Mimi going through a bunch of different outfit changes through the rest of Digimon Adventures Try. I mean, yeah, we see her at the kind of spa day that they have, and she's in like the kimono that she has, but it's not really sexualized. It's just she's in a full body kimono. Yeah, they have to run around in the men's bathroom area, which is extremely awkward when they're trying to find Mekumon and Palamon, but still. No, it's Mekumon and Beaumon, I think, were the two that got mixed, that got lost. But like they do that, and then one of the things is, of course, with Mimi, we know in the future, in like because of what we see with the epilogue that is in Digimon Adventures 2.0 that's in the last episode, and then from what we see with Digimon The Last Evolution, that Mimi is now in charge of this like fashion type empire and shopping empire, and she's been she's like building up this fashion, and it means a lot to her because fashion is one of the things that she loves, and and that's just the way that she is, and she wants people to look good. And Mimi also strikes me as the person where it's just like, if you're wearing something really horribly designed or horrible colors, she will not, because she's sincerity, she will not be afraid to tell you that she thinks your outfit is horrible. But on the other side, if you're wearing like a really great outfit, she's of course going to compliment it. Or if she knows you put a lot of effort into your outfit, she'll compliment that because she does think that you did a good job with that type of a thing. But she's also going to be like, okay, yeah, you look not so good, but we're going to give you a makeover. And then like she'll also try to make you feel more comfortable to a degree. Yeah, Mimi can be pushy, but that's just the way that she is for that. Down the list, we have Sora. Sora doesn't really go through that many like outfit costume changes to a degree, or like any type of a drastic change from, you know, where she is in the first season and in the second season. Yeah, in the second season, we see her wearing her school uniform a lot more, and we see her in like a winter coat at some point. And, you know, she's lost her like helmet hat that she wears. She doesn't wear that anymore. And then, you know, by the time, you know, Try comes around, you know, she does take a fair amount of, you know, a little bit of concern into the way that she looks, because in the beginning we see her trying to figure out, oh, well, you know, what outfit can I wear to like Ty's soccer game, but then like also have something that I can wear to like Matt's, you know, concert and like all this other stuff. And, you know, and not be, you know, not look stupid at either one, you know, not be too overdressed for this, but not underdressed for that, or, you know, and like we see her worrying about that and everything. And then, of course, when she gets to, you know, when we get to Digimon The Last Evolution, Sora has also started to, you know, she's growing up, and she is the first one technically to lose her Digimon, to go through, you know, the timer and lose Beaumont. From, you know, from what we see that happens throughout the flashes of the movie, and then in the short that they did. And like she, you know, she's taken a, you know, she's much more dressing in like the kimono type style that like her mother wore when she was younger, and she's, you know, gotten more into that. And I mean, it's not uncommon for people in Japan to dress that way, for like women or men in Japan to dress that way. That's not uncommon. I think they maybe, you know, heighten it a little bit more for anime purposes, but you know, it's not going to be like a bad thing if you see someone dressed that way walking down the street. But Sora doesn't really go through that many, you know, that much in regards to caring about the way that she looks. It does matter to her to a degree, but not as much as it matters to me. And then, of course, we have Kari, and of course, Kari's a little kid in the first season, so they're not going to do anything with that. And then, of course, for the second season, we don't really get too much. She has a couple of different outfit changes, but none of them are like, oh my god, Kari, what are you wearing? Why are you dressed that way? Type of thing. And then the same thing in like in Digimon Adventure Try, you know, she's in, I think, in middle school at that point in time, her and TKR. And again, we don't really see that many costume changes from her in regards to, you know, we see her in her school uniform, but that's about it. And the kimono, of course, when they're at the spa. And then, you know, by the time she's, you know, in, you know, Digimon Adventure, you know, or the Digimon Last Evolution, she's, you know, she's in college at this point in time, and she's studying to become a teacher, but, you know, she's just wearing like regular clothes. And then, of course, that extends into, you know, when she is an adult, she does become a teacher, and she just wears, you know, I don't know if like in high schools and, you know, elementary schools and stuff like that in Japan, I don't know if the teachers have a specific dress code as well. It wouldn't surprise me if they did. But I know like in America to a degree, sometimes there's like a dress code with the teachers. Or at least, you know, like, well, don't wear anything, you know, too suggestive, or don't wear anything that has like bad words on it, or that's anything like too short of a skirt, or, you know, too low cut of a top, or whatever the case may be. And, you know, so Kari dresses, you know, like a teacher there. So we don't really get anything there with her. And then the same thing with Mako. You know, throughout the course of Digimon Adventure Try, we see her in basically like her everyday clothes and her school uniform. And then, of course, we do see her in like the kimono for, you know, when they're at the robe kimono type thing when they're at the spa. And then, of course, we see her in the cheerleading outfit for her and Mimi that she made for the cafe. And she's very, you know, not comfortable in the outfit, but she's doing it because she wants to help Mimi feel better. And, you know, help Mimi feel like she, you know, you were a good you were, you know, your idea was very good. And, you know, so she goes along with Mimi with that and everything. And, you know, we don't, you know, Mako doesn't go through a whole lot of like costume changes. Again, they don't put the kids through that many costume changes. I mean, yeah, we see them in slightly like regular clothes at times too, but they're also in their school uniforms a lot, which is, I think, just a device of like, well, we have them in their school uniform already, and it saves us time on having to, develop more costumes for them to wear beyond for like, oh, they went to the, to the spa, so they need like something to wear there. And, they went and did this fun thing out and about, so they're not going to be wearing their school uniforms when they go and do this. So that type of a thing. So we see that with Mimi and Sora and Kari and Mako. And none of them are really like objectified or anything like that. We did get the, oh my god, with Mimi, like, Ty and Izzy at one point, because Mimi got like dragged off by a Digimon and like thrown into like a nice hot bath and everything. Mimi, Ty and Izzy run in, like they're, completely embarrassed, and then they run back out after I think they get whacked and hit by Mimi. And I mean, we do kind of see, like, the guys aren't really put through the objectification lens either. I mean, like, Izzy does do the thing in Digimon Adventures Try where he makes a program to help him pick out clothes, as opposed to apparently letting his mother do it because he wants to impress Mimi. I find that adorable. But, like, the guys don't put, like, a huge amount of stuff into it. I mean, like, Matt, of course, wants to look cool for his band, and, like, he has a reason for that, for, like, whatever variation of band he's in, Knife of Day, the, Teenage Werewolves, whatever the name of the band is at any given time. And, yeah, he wants to look cool for the band, but, he doesn't put super amount of, concern into his clothes. And, like, Ty doesn't really either. He's, like, either in a school uniform or, like, soccer clothes, or, different things like that. They're not really objectified. And, like, TK's still kind of the same way. And Joe's, to a degree, the same way as well. We see him in, like, his, college student clothes, prep school type clothes. And, so we see those. So they're not really objectified. Or at least not to the standards of, like, One Piece and Fairy Tail and Black Clover. I mean, Sailor Moon does it a little bit with the characters, but it's mostly with, like, the characters that are already older, like, Uranus and Neptune and Pluto. They're already on the older side. They're grown up, so it's a little bit less concerning for them to do it. And they do it with a lot of the villains, like the monsters in Sailor Moon, but that's for a whole different video. But then we get to the Digimon themselves. And, of course, because I started with Mimi, we're going to start with Palamon. So Palamon basically goes through the change of Palamon, who is like a plant with a pretty flower on its head and vines, into a cactus that can box because reasons. And, that's Togemon. And then from Togemon, she goes into Lilymon, who is, when we're first introduced to Lilymon in Digimon Adventures, is, this very pretty, still very, has a little bit more of the hourglass type figure. But her clothes aren't really super revealing. Yeah, she's got like a top, she's got like a, shirt and a skirt, and she's, in the dress and everything, and she's got the pretty fairy wings for her to fly around on. But she doesn't really have, she's not really like objectified type of a thing. And then when we get into Digimon Adventures Try, and I know in the remake of Digimon Adventures that they have done this already, where Mimi has the ability to digivolve Lilymon into Rosemon, but the first times that we see that is in Digimon Adventures Try, where she digivolves into Rosemon, hence why I'm wearing the Rosemon shirt. And Rosemon is much, much more of the, we see her, her breast jiggle when she digivolves and everything. And it's, she's got a whip, so she's basically a dominatrix. So her and Midnight from My Hero Academia would get along great. Midnight, I have found my spirit animal. Oh, Midnight. Rosemon, I like your outfit. Midnight, I like your whip. Where'd you get those thorns? I made them. Okay. Like, they would get along great. But we also see with, with the Digimon that, with the way that they, they show Rosemon, and like, yeah, she jumps around, and I think they give her some like interesting one-liners and stuff like that when she's jumping around as Rosemon. And of course, she's still wearing kind of like almost a full body thing, but there's certain areas that are not covered, of course, and those like to jiggle. So we have that, and then we have, of course, Sora, Beaumont doesn't really change that much in regards to she's a bird the entire time. She doesn't go from like, Beaumont into, into Birdramon, into Garudamon, into Phoenixmon. She doesn't, it's not like Phoenixmon is like a really sexy woman with like phoenix wings and like a helmet that looks like a beak, which I'm kind of glad they didn't go that way with Beaumont in regards to the way that she digivolves. Just because that I put that as a little bit too over the top, because Beaumont, as Beaumont changes, which I kind of put Beaumont down more as like a she, because that's kind of the way that tends to act a little bit more like a she instead of a he, but I could be wrong on that. But she goes from bird to larger firebird to larger bipedal firebird with arms that can punch you to bigger firebird with a helmet and big flaming wings. That's even bigger. And, it's not like she goes from like, bird to bipedal bird to, sexy woman outfit with, like a, sexy woman with like, the flame wings, which they could have taken it that way. I don't know if there is a variation of that, but they could have taken it that way, and I'm slightly glad they didn't. We see that a lot with, with Rosemon, that it's like, oh, she went from flower to cactus to fairy to rosy dominatrix with a whip. And then, Beaumont doesn't have that. And then we go into Gaudamon's line, which goes from like tiny green cat to dog-ish looking thing to cat that, is very cute and very adorable. And I love Gaudamon. She's just so awesome. I think she's as much as I love Palamon and the others, and like, Agumon and such, I think Gaudamon is my favorite out of the Digimon partners from Digimon Adventures. Nothing against the others, but she's my favorite because I love angels, and she goes from like cat to an angel. And I will buy the cat into an angel thing because, when she turns into Angelmon, because, it's kind of this, I put it as this like representation of like, Gaudamon has been through so much suffering because of Myotismon. And then, of course, she digivolves because of, what happens with Wizardmon, because that's when it fully activates Kari's crest, when her and Kari, have the crest together and the Digivice, and, they're, in the same place at the same time, and, they have to fight Myotismon after he just destroyed Wizardmon. And, that's when she digivolves for the first time, so I understand that she goes to, like, this angel that is there to, like, kind of seek revenge for the fact that you hurt my friend, you just killed my friend in front of me, and, like, you were gonna kill Kari, and you're gonna kill all these people that are here in this, at the TV station and at the, community event center, whatever, and, you're gonna kill the rest of the Digidestin if I don't find a way to stop you. So I understand why they did it that way. And, Angelmon, I love Angelmon. She's beautiful. She's amazing. I love her wings. I love this, like, shift that they did and how she's, well, not really, they didn't, like, change the way she's designed for Adventures Try. They just kind of, sharpened it a little bit. But, like, in the cards, she's got, like, the breastplate and everything like that. And in the TV show and in the, and in the series and everything in the movies, that's the way the Angelmon is. And she's beautiful and I love her. And then she goes, and Angelmon has like the two variations that she turns into. She either, when regards to, Kari, like, dark digivolving her in Digimon Adventures Try after they think Ty's dead, she did, Nyarumon dark digivolves, corrupt digivolves into Ophanimon Fallen Down mode. Now, Ophanimon Fallen Down mode is the corrupted version of an actual Digimon. There is a Digimon that's called Ophanimon. She's not really relevant in, like, Digimon Adventures, but she is very much relevant in, Digimon Frontier, which I'll be getting to at some point in time, but she's much more relevant there. So we do have artwork of what like a regular Ophanimon would look like, and she's beautiful again. She's got like the decked out armor and everything. She's of course this representation of like an angel from the army of God, one of the angels that's with, surrounds God and helps God and, does his bidding and everything is what she's a representation of. And of course there's Seraphimon and Cherubimon that go along with her. For that like trio, but that's more of a Digimon Frontier thing. But we do see Ophanimon. And, given the fact that Gatomon did turn into, Ophanimon Fallen Down mode, which is this corrupt, more demonic type version of it, that would imply that Gatomon would have the ability to turn into Ophanimon. And I do think that in Digimon Adventures, in like the reboot that they're doing, that Anjouamon does turn into Ophanimon, like just a regular Ophanimon. Which, to fight whoever, insert name of whatever evil Digimon they're having to fight in that, because I haven't watched it yet, but I'm assuming it still follows a similar base storyline to the original series. They just maybe, are redoing it for the purposes of redoing it, and, because of like the anniversary several years ago and such. So, I don't blame them for that. But of course, what we see happen is, we see her as Ophanimon Fallen Down mode, and then she combines with, Mekumon's, highest, kind of corrupted version of when she digivolves, and they digivolve into Ordinamon. And of course, Ophanimon Fallen Down mode and Ordinamon are these representations of this, horrible fallen angel type Digimon. There's other representations of a fallen angel type Digimon, and that's kind of like an archetype because, like, Devimon is technically like a fallen angel type Digimon. So is Lilymon, who is another Digimon that's very relevant for Digimon Frontier. Same thing with, there's an evil version of, Seraphimon. It's Seraphimon, like Shadow Mode or something like that. And then, of course, there's the Virtue and Vice versions of Cherubimon, of course, where it's, one's like the black and dark purple type thing, and the other one's like the white and the gold type one. And, so all, those ones all have like this same duality type setup that they have, because there's the pure form and then there's the fallen form. And with Ophanimon, with Ordinamon, by a technicality, I would say that because there is like a vice mode, this like horrible one that's made from like sorrow and despair and darkness is where this version of Ordinamon came from. And objectively, minus the like giant mouth that looks like it can swallow you and the fact that it's opening up horrible destructive portals that are bringing in Digimon from the digital world into the real world and like just causing a whole bunch of mayhem and panic, Ordinamon's design itself is actually quite elegant. She's got like these huge black wings that have like jewels in them, and like the feathers are amazing, and like her her body is very beautifully designed and everything like that. It is kind of like the hourglass figure again, but it's this twisted version of it. And it's like this twisted version of beauty. So there is still that, like, it's still beautiful, but it's also this like destructive, twisted version of it. And, and that's what we see throughout like the course of like the last 2 episodes of Digimon Adventures Try, is when they're dealing with Ordinamon and, and how they have to, fight that and everything. And I went over that in the Digimon Adventures character discussion videos. But we also see when it comes to, Anjouamon, she also has the ability to digivolve into Holydramon, which is this holy dragon type Digimon, which we see this Digimon the first time in Digimon the movie, in like the 3rd section of the Digimon movie, where she, her and, Anjouamon have to digivolve into their mega forms to, to help fight Cherubimon to release the golden Digi-Eggs. And so we see her turn into the dragon there, and then later on in Digimon Adventures Try, she digivolves into her again after, Gatomon has like been able to separate herself from Ordinamon, and gets back to Kari, and they get their memories back, and she digivolves all the way into Holydramon. I think the original translation was like Anjakumon, but Holydramon works as well, and that's been more the official version of how I found for how you pronounce it. Like Omnimon is also like Omegamon to a degree, is kind of like a similar thing there. And so we see that with with Holy Dramon, and I would assume that there's a few other things that go with Godamon, because Godamon's evolutionary line, or like the Nyaramon evolutionary line, the Nyaramon evolutionary line and the Patamon evolutionary line actually have like a lot of similarities in them, because like a Patamon can digivolve into like a into fully digivolve into like an Anduamon at some point, or fully into like a different one, or a Seraphimon, or the Ophanimon, or Angemon, or into like a Devimon, or whatever variation of that, because like Digimon have such very intertwined branched evolutions that like, yeah, that same Digimon can turn into this, whereas with Pokemon it's like, well, Eevee has the most things that it can turn into, and like Eevee has the most options when it comes to like Pokemon, because it can digivolve into so many different forms based on, or digivolve can Eevee can evolve into so many different forms based on the conditions that you evolve it under, friendship, day, night, moss rock, leaf, moss rock, ice rock, water, fire, and electric stones, thunder stones that you give it. And there's other other Pokemon that have like that same branched evolution type of a thing, but it's like, well, you can go to this or you can go to this. Whereas with Digimon, it's very much more of like a branched evolution that intertwine with other things depending on how the Digimon's raised. And then of course you throw in like there's the twisted versions of that too, where like if they go to a Digidesa that happens to be more on the dark side, then the Digimon has a more likelihood of turning into something that's dark and kind of evil, quote unquote. And we see that more illustrated in some of the other series that I really haven't watched, but we do see it shown a few different times depending on the certain circumstances that they digivolve. And with Godamon, one of the other things that I think Godamon is able to turn into is a Digimon that is called Bastetmon, which is of course named after Bastet, the Greek, the Greece, Egyptian cat goddess. And this one is literally kind of based off of like a belly dancer outfit, and she's very pretty. She, Kari's Godamon doesn't turn into her as far as I'm aware at any given time, but she's just this other variation of what she can turn into. There's also like Lilymon that gets brought into this, but Lilymon is going to get discussed in something else at some point in time when I get to that with some of the other Digimon miscellaneous videos that I want to do that aren't really connected to one specific series in general. So we see that, and then we also get Mekumon. And Mekumon is this another kind of variation of like, cat turning into a more wild version of a cat again and again and again, and then eventually does end up as Ordinamon, of course, with, Ophanimon fallen down mode. But, it's just more of this version of like this cute little cat that gets wilder and more feral and everything like that as she digivolves. Admittedly, none of the digivolutions that Mekumon goes through are necessarily at the behest of Mako. So yeah, she could digivolve into all of these things, but these are also more of the virus versions of them, the vicious versions, I think is what they're referred to as. And if she was able to be, digivolved, without it being because Mekumon is like sad, or that Mako is like sad at that point in time, that it's more digivolved because of, happiness or something along those lines, then Mekumon would probably have better control. Like if Mekumon didn't have the virus inside of her, of course, she would probably be able to, better control her powers and not cause as many, much damage as she does throughout the course of, Digimon Adventure Tri. And, we see that a lot. And I wanted to go over that. We see a lot of the different, female Digimon that, that we see in Digimon Adventures Tri for the most part, where we see them with much more, the, not quite the One Piece style things where it's like a waist that was like is going to snap. But they're still there. They're still a bit more proportionate, but it's also their Digimon that are made of data. So them looking a little bit, a little bit more heightened is also there. And yes, I'm well aware of the fact that just like with Digimon, just like with Pokemon, just like with One Piece, just like with all that other stuff, there are the hentai versions of them. And no, I'm not going to show you them because I don't need to get taken off of YouTube for that. Or, whatever the heck else would happen for punishment for that. But, they've done that with Pokemon where they, anthropomorphize, Gardevoir and, Delphox and a bunch of these other ones. And like, oh, well, you're clearly a female more type thing. So we'll just, turn you more into like a female type thing and, all of that. With Digimon, with, Rosemon and with Lilymon and with Anjuamon and with, Ophanimon and stuff like that, specifically with Lilithmon as well. There's a lot that goes into that because they're already quite beautiful, and it's basically just like, oh, well, we'll just, remove their clothing type of thing. And, admittedly, it's never stated whether or not Digimon necessarily have a full-on gender. I would put more like the ones that have like, like woman like Anjuamon or Lady Devimon, or some of the other ones that are like that way. Obviously, those ones more are, the female side, and, Anjumon is, of course, like the male version. Devimon is, that is where those ones come into play. But, like, when they're in training and, like, they're rookie, and even to a degree, like, with Gatomon is a champion form. And Gatomon does seem to demonstrate more of the, being more on the female side of things than being on the male side of things. So, her being referred to as like a female, as a she, is fine. Beaumon does kind of seem to, again, lean a little bit more towards a female. Same thing with Palamon. Lead more into like the female side of things, and, those types of aspects in regards to the way that they act with their partner and things like that. Whereas we have, some of the, like, I think the Digidestined do kind of do like a he and she type of a thing when it comes to their Digimon. I know that I think they do this in like the first couple of seasons in regards to Digimon Adventures and Digimon Adventures 2.0. And then they do the Summon Try, and in the last evolution where they do, because I think Sora refers to Yokomon / Beaumon at one point when they're back in the digital world and Digimon Adventures Try and the Digimon don't remember who they are, that she's like, Beaumon hates me and I can't stand it, and she hates me. And, we get that type of an interaction there between them, and, where it's just, I think Tai calls Agumon, that, calls him, not like that's my boy, but, calls him, a he every now and then, and things like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. The Digimon might lean a little bit more towards one way or the other way. And I will say that, yes, there is a quote from Digimon Tamers where, like, Renamon gets asked, Renamon, who is, this humanoid fox type Digimon that looks kind of like would be on the female side of things, just for the way that she's, designed, and the fact that she does say, her voice is a female voice actress, and doing like a female tone, that she gets asked by like Rika's mom or her grandma, are you like a girl or are you like a boy or whatever, and she's like, well, Digimon don't really have specific genders, type of a thing. And, Renamon is just much more like refined type of a Digimon, as opposed to like some of the other Digimon that are in Digimon Tamers, or even the Digimon that are in like Digimon Adventures. Renamon is this much more refined type of attitude for the way that she acts, much more, not like cultured, but she's much more reserved for the way that she acts. And like Rika's mom says something along the lines of, well, you have to be a female with the way that you wear those furs, because you wear them great. And like his Renamon has like this bushy fur that she has on her, and I think Renamon like blushes at that, like, okay. But so there is quite this obvious thing where it's just like sometimes they do lean more towards one or the other, sometimes they don't. They do tend to, with Digimon, yeah, they objectify the female body to a degree, but they also kind of do that a little bit with like the male bodies too, when it comes to like Anjuamon is basically the only example I can give, because he's the only one that is like a male that they show, because, Agumon goes from, dinosaur dragon thing to dinosaur dragon thing that's bigger and has a helmet to has a rocket propeller at its chest and a metal claw to, dinosaur dragon thing covered in armor. And, Gabumon is like wolf thing into bigger wolf thing into bipedal werewolf thing into quadruped wolf thing with wings and metal and armor and everything like that. And it's like Anyumon's the only one that really has like a male form. The other ones are just like big animals type of thing. Yeah, they kind of do more like speak with like a male voice, so you can kind of put them more in that range, but it's not like an exact science with that. So this went a little bit longer than I intended it to. Sorry, I went off on a couple of tangents there, but I just wanted to point that out. I did that a little bit in Mimi's video, but I wanted to point it out a little bit more here in its own video. So that's what we have. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you have a nice rest of your day, and comment into like which, of the, I know there's like hundreds of other female Digimon that they've shown that are all based on like, some of them are based on goddesses, some of them are based on other things. There's like mermaid ones, there's other ones that I'll be talking about like in later videos that go with Digimon Adventure, or Digimon with Tamers, and Digimon Frontier, and some of the other ones where it's, they have that, but what are some of your more favorite, regardless of whether or not they're necessarily being objectified, what are some of your more favorite, female Digimon that you've seen throughout the series? Or your more favorite male ones that you've seen throughout the series? Or just, whatever variation of that you want to go with. So that's what I have. I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye. Oh my, I would just love to take one home and put it on my bed with all my other stuffed animals.